What is up, everyone? I'm Pinecone Enthusiast, and welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov gun build video. I know it has been an extremely long time, and I'm happy to be back, guys, and I hope that you guys are going to enjoy this video. Now, today, the main premises of this video is going to be geared towards a group of guns that are meant to get you through the mid-game and pretty much allow you to be slightly competitive. Pretty much the reason I'm making this video is because I got back into Tarkov more recently, the last month or two, and I've been struggling very, very hard. I have 131 raids. I'm only surviving 39% of them. I do play almost always solo, but I have been struggling very, very badly this wipe, and it has been very hard to get guns that I can use at level 24, and pretty much this applies all the way down to level 15, that allow you to be competitive and fire okay ammo. That's the biggest issue right now for me, is actually being able to fire any type of ammo that is competitive. And I wanted to break this video down to these certain rounds that are actually competitive and obtainable for someone who is around level 15 to 24, where you have all of your traders at level 2. I'm actually just about to break out of that. I'm going to start getting level 2 or loyalty level 3s, where I'm going to be able to run better ammo, and that's going to change the game drastically, I know. And I wanted to make this video to kind of show how I have gotten through this tough area here for late wipe, but I'm only at the mid section of it. So we're going to be breaking this down into ammo, and then the best guns that I could find for these ammos. And then these builds are going to be more budget friendly, but also competitive. These things are going to be obtainable from loyalty level 2 and the flea market without breaking the bank. These builds are by no means complete meta, and none of them are meta actually at all, but they are competitive and will not break the bank. So the first gun we're actually going to be starting out at is the RPK. Now, the RPK has always been one of my favorite guns in Tarkov. It's very easy to mod, and it hits a very nice sweet spot for pretty much anything that you're going to be doing. And the first round that we're going to be looking at is PP. Now, I don't think the RPK or any type of 545 is actually viable until you can at least purchase PP off the flea market. Now, PP is going to cost you around 350 rubles per round, which is relatively expensive, but it gives you 44 damage, which is low, but it does give you 36 pen. Now, that 36 pen is going to help you compete against class 4 armor, and it usually can get through that within 2 to 3 shots. Anything below class 4, you're going to be 2-shotting in the chest. Actually, technically, this is a 3-shot to the chest. I do apologize for that. So it is going to be a 3-shot to the chest, but the RPK we're looking at here has 77 ergo without a mag and has 55 vertical recoil. Now, let's get into this build here. You're going to purchase an RPK straight off the flea market. They're going to be at 100% durability. They're very easy to obtain. We'll go over prices in a little bit here. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is the pistol grip. And what you're going to see on all these guns is that there's pretty much like 5 pistol grips that you can choose from that are not meta, but are pretty much just 1 or 2 points below meta, but they're going to vary a lot in price. And so for things like on AKs, you're going to want to be looking at saws, and you're going to want to be looking at the TDBGs and the MOs. Now, you can run pretty much any of these and you're going to get the same stats. It's pretty much whatever is available to you at the time and whatever is the cheapest. So I would look at these and look at the TDBG, the tan one. I have the black one here. The saws are going to give you 1 less ergo. You can look at those too. You're not going to notice a 1 ergo difference, trust me. And then you can also look at the MOs. So pretty much whatever is available to you at that time. Now, going to the foregrip, or not the foregrip, I'm sorry. The stock here, we're going to be looking at the RPK. It has the RPK tube, and then we're just going to put a CTR stock on it. Now, again, this is completely up to you guys what you want to run here. The CTR is a sweet spot for me for recoil and ergonomics. You can run a MO if you have them, and then you put the rubber butt pad on it, and pretty much what you have available to you, you can slap on here. All of your M4 builds, you can throw the stocks on the RPK. It's going to be whatever is available to you, whatever you have in your stash, whatever's cheapest at the time. Now we're going to be running the 16-inch barrel, which comes with it, and then we're going to have the RP1. And then coming around to the front of the gun here, we're going to be able to slap a ×400 or whatever laser flashlight device that you guys want to use, because this comes with the RPK16 rails. And then for the muzzle device, we're going to be running the PWS CQ-B74. Now you can silence this, but for me, this build does not bear very well with a silencer. It hurts the ergo and the recoil at the same time. It's pretty brutal. And then coming down to the foregrip, I always run AFG BLKs, FGs, and ODs. Now, pretty much once again, the same thing with the pistol grip is that all four of these are the same thing. Just run whatever one is available to you at the time and whatever one is the cheapest. Yes, the colors are going to mismatch, but it's up to you guys what you want to run there. But this is going to be pretty much the best bang for your buck here. And if you have, the RVGs, they're going to be available. But once you get up into the side-mounted RK1, you're going to be breaking the bank really bad. So that's it for this build. The RPK, you get a very high ergo at 77 without a mag, and then 55 vertical recoil. This is pretty much the most middle of the table gun on this list here, and it's very effective, and it's pretty easy to run, and it's very easy to mod. Coming up next is going to be the AK-101. Now this one's going to be weird for some people, and it's a little bit complicated. But this gun, this build I have here is very, very interesting, and it's really fun. Now, out of all of the guns on this list, this is going to have the lowest vertical recoil out of all of them and still keep a 50 ergonomics with a silencer. Now, this is kind of crazy. The AK-101, this is probably my favorite gun on this build list. The one thing that holds it back is the ammo. Now, M855 is available to everyone once you first start out in the game, but it sucks. It's a really bad round. They nerfed it from having 30 pen down to 28, so now it has 53 damage and 28 pen. Pretty much after week 2 of the wipe, M855 is pretty much useless, which is what holds back the AK-101. What I would suggest doing is that once you are able to craft M856A1, which gives you 37 pen and 54 damage, I craft this in the Hideout with you get 200 round M856A1, and then it's going to cost you 2 red gunpowders and then 200 rounds of M855. Now this comes out to be about 500 to 600 rubles per round, so it's going to be expensive to run this gun. But let me tell you that this gun is very, very accurate. It's super easy to control the recoil, and it only has 650 rounds per minute, which makes it even easier to control the recoil. So this is pretty much my favorite gun on this list here, and it's going to be one of the most effective, but do not run it with M855. You're going to regret it, and you're probably just going to end up losing money because you're going to struggle killing scabs. Pretty much anything under 30 pen is abysmal. And but yeah, so let's get into the build here. So once again, down with the pistol grip, I have the TDBG. What we said about the RPK, same thing applies here. Now for the stock, it's actually really simple. You can just run the stock AK with the butt pad on here. You can use the PT74M and throw on the PT3. You're going to get slightly better stats, very, very slightly better stats, but it can be much more expensive. So I would not recommend that for this build. I think it drops the recoil by 2, and that's it. It's not worth like the 30 to 40 grand that you're going to pay for that. And I just realized I didn't show you guys how much the RPK costs. We're going to look into that in a minute here. Up top, you're going to throw the Bastion on. This is going to be very readily available to you from Skier. And then I actually use the Mo AKM, the handguard in the middle. Now, I use the purple one because my favorite color is purple. It's just kind of one way that I use to personalize my guns. There's a lot of options here. Pretty much the Mo hits the middle ground and allows you to, do what you need to do. It gives you some good recoil and ergo advantages. And then down below, we're going to be running the AFG once again. And for this, you also have to run the M-Lock 4.1. Now, you can also slap an AFG on here. The M-Lock versions of them, they're all going to do pretty much the exact same thing. The stat differences are very minuscule, but once again, just bargain shop. Look for whichever one of these colors is the cheapest for you at the time. It's a very good foregrip, and it pretty much, I use it on all of my guns right now. Then on the side here, in order to run a flashlight, you do have to have the M-Lock 2.5, and then you can throw your ×400, whatever you want to run on there. And then actually for this gun, which makes it a little bit more expensive, you can run this gun loud and get the same stats, but I think it's worth it to run the suppressor on here. What you're going to want to do is you grab the CNC War, which is, it's a small little piece here. And then that's actually the suppressor attached to it. And then you're going to grab the 223CB from the muzzle brakes. And then you're going to put the Ultra 5 on it. I'm actually going to throw this because it's a little bit confusing without being able to see it. So the CNC War is right here. If you want to run this thing loud, you can just grab this RRD. Very cheap most of the time. And it gives you very similar statistics, and you grab a lot more ergo, but you will be loud. So what I do is I get the CNC War, and then I grab the 223CB right here, the Thunder Beast, and then I throw the Ultra 5 on it. And that's it for this build. It's pretty simple, and we're going to find the parts here, get rid of the traders, and we're going to get rid of the prices of the things that we are going to have that come with the gun. So this is a rough estimate of how much this gun's going to cost you, about 140,000 rubles. The Thunder Beast is very expensive right now. Obviously, these prices are all going to fluctuate drastically all the time. So this is about 140K build-ish. I should put the gun up here. It costs about 43K, once you buy the gun. 180,000, right around there. It's actually a pretty cheap build for what you're going to be getting out of this gun. And now while I'm thinking about it, let's go back to the RPK and we'll edit the preset. We're going to find the parts for this and see how cheap this one is. Now, I know this gun is actually much cheaper than a lot of the ones on this list because you don't have to do anything to it to actually get it to function. These all come with it. And that comes with it too. So for this build, you're looking at, once you buy the RPK, right around 140K. You're probably going to be about 40K cheaper than the AK-101. The CTR stock is up there in price right now. So I've seen this build. I've built it for 100K before. It's very cheap. And yeah. Next up on this list is going to be the AKM. Now, this is not silenced, unfortunately, but it is one of the most effective guns for pretty much any point in the wipe. It can be a meta gun with BP, and I think it recently more so got replaced by the Mutant, but the AKM is still a very good gun, and I think it always will be as long as PS and BP are decent, and you can get the AKM's recoil down, relatively decent. So we're going to be looking at the PS round 7.62 PS, and this is readily available for you right from loyalty level 1 Prapper. This round costs 145 rubles per round, and it has 57 damage and 35 pen. This is probably the best early game round that there is. It competes with all these other rounds that come at a slightly later time, and it's just a great gun, fully automatic, and hits pretty hard. 30 round mags. It's cheap to make. We're looking at 74 ergo and 70 vertical recoil. The recoil is a little bit high, but it's a pretty decent round. I think a lot of people kind of think that 7.62 hits harder than it does. Once you actually compare it, it does almost the same damage as a 5.56 M4 round. They pretty much, like if you look at 5.6A1, 54 damage compared to the PS of 57. They're actually pretty similar. They're pretty similar rounds, and it hits hard, but it does hurt a little bit to have this high of a recoil. So when we go into the preset, it's very similar to the AK-101. You have the MOAKM and the FG. I'm not going to go over those guys again. And then you have the TDBG. Now, at the stock, I use the UAS AK. This is a good middle ground. There are better stocks out there. You can get better recoil reduction using this butt stock here, the OP4. But it's very expensive. From what I've seen, the US AK is almost always available for under 20K. And yeah, if you guys have them available, you can get into the more meta builds for this gun. But that's not the point of this video. Up top, we have the Bastion again. On the side with the times 400, and then I actually run this one as a loud build. You do not get the same bonuses that like the AK-101 has with the silencers. Like if we look here, if you just slap this suppressor on here, you're going to lose a ton of ergo, and you're actually going to increase your recoil by quite a bit. And even when you run something along the lines here, this is a very expensive silencer, and you're still losing recoil to what the other option is, which is the RRD4C. So this is what I use for this AKM. We're gonna look at the price here, and it's pretty low. It's a very cheap gun to run, and I actually have this available right now because I'm doing the punish request on Shoreline. Let's see here. That's looking about everything there. So about 152,000 rubles. Very similar to the other builds so far. They fall into pretty much all the same category. This is going to be harder to control the recoil than the RPK and the AK, but the rounds are a little bit better and they hit a little bit harder. So coming up next is actually going to be an SA58. This just reminded me of something. The AK-101, some people are probably going to be asking why the MDR is not up here, the 5.56 variant. And that's because the AK-101 actually has much better vertical recoil and slightly worse ergonomics. So I'd rather go with the vertical recoil while keeping a 50 ergo. That's perfectly fine by me. And they pretty much cost the same amount of money once you put a suppressor on the MDR. And so the AK-101 for me, giving it, they have the same rate of fire, is actually better than the MDR. So down to the SA58, and the reason that I just got reminded about that is because the RFB exists. Now, a lot of people have been using the RFB this wipe, at least for early on, and it's a good gun. It is. It's a good gun, but I actually think that the SA58 with this build right here, and it's a little bit complicated, I think it's more competitive than the RFB because two things. You have the ability to go full auto, and then on top of that, you have the ability to put on a flashlight and laser combo. As far as I know, the RFB, you cannot put a flashlight and laser on it, and it does suck. It kind of hurts the build, and sometimes you do need to go full auto. And actually, this build here for the SA58, it has slightly lower vertical recoil than the RFB, which is probably surprising for some people. But before we get into the build, we're going to look at the shell, or the round. So I use the TCW SP. This is available from Jaeger, sorry. This is actually a loyalty level 1 round, so it's very effective. It has 67 damage and 34 pen. Now, this is a very good round. It will get through class 4 very quickly, and it can even give class 5s a run for its money. It's a good round. It really is. The other option is the BCP FMJ here. It does almost, I think it does 88 damage to the body or something around that, but it has 31 pen. Now, this is technically like a tier up because you can get this from Skier level 2 and Jaeger level 2. It's a little bit more expensive and it does hit harder, but it has less pen. So I found that the shell struggles more against class 4 armor, which is something that's very common this wipe. So I would actually rather run the TCW SP with a 34 pen than the BCP with a 31. So getting into the build here, this is a little bit different than a lot of people have seen in the past because of the juice cannon. The juice cannon was the main weapon of Tarkov for the last 2 years, and once they added ergo and stuff like that, it kind of got dethroned. And actually, it did get dethroned. I haven't even gotten killed by an SA58, but I think that this gun is getting a lot less love than it actually should. So getting into this build here, we have the AG-FAL. Now this is an expensive pistol grip. I want to get into this. I'll show you guys in a minute how you actually can get this pistol grip. And there's going to be probably 2 different builds for this gun that you're going to run. The most interesting thing is going to be the 11-inch barrel. Most people are used to seeing the 21. You can't really use that anymore. So I actually use the 11-inch barrel. And then at the S end here for the stock, we have the BRS. Very good stock. It's pretty much the best in class. Up top here, we have the SA58 ED. That's going to be up top here. And then up front, we have the CISV FAS. Now, the thing that's interesting is that there's another foregrip here that you're probably going to have to use. And I'll get to that in a minute. So we have the times 400. On the bottom, I have an RVG. That's only because I had it available. Actually, I purchased it off the flea market like this. But you can run your AFG, and you're going to get just a little bit less ergo. Then up front, we're going to be running the 30CB with the Ultra 5. And that's pretty much, this is another silent build, and it's very effective. Now, 114 recoil is a lot. It's a lot. But this gun hits hard, and you're going full auto. And if I figure that if a lot of people like the RFB, then this is a little bit better than the RFB, in my opinion. And I think it could be pretty effective for some people. Now, what we're going to do here is we're actually going to look at this thing on the flea market because that's where you're going to get it from. And I have another one here that I purchased off the flea. So right up front, once you look at SA58, you're going to see all these shitty 21-inch barrels that no one wants, terrible durability, very cheap. You don't want those. What you want to do is you want to scroll down. Now, they are a little bit expensive right now. And I got mine for 70K a little bit earlier, but you can see these ones here that are actually dropped by raiders. And this one has the CASV right up here and the Viter 4-inch. Now you can purchase this one for 120K. It comes with the AGFAL, which is the best pistol grip that I've found for this gun. It's very expensive, but you can get it just by purchasing it with the gun. And the Viter 5, or the Viter, I'm sorry, it's the 5-inch one. It is not available on the flea market hardly ever, and it's very expensive if it is. So that's why this gun is expensive in this way, because it came off of a raider, and it allows you some mods that you would not be able to use otherwise because they're just not available. We're going to look at the other version of this gun, which is the SA58 I have here, which I believe came out of a box. This is what comes out of an in-raid. You're going to see these ones as well on the market. When we look at the difference here, we have the saw, the pistol grip here. This is a pretty good pistol grip, but it's not as good as the one that we saw before on the other build here. And you're going to see that this one comes with a MO that you can use or change. It even comes with a rubber butt pad. It's a really good stock to have around, and you might as well just take it off and put the BRS on it because it's much more effective for the SA58. And then the other biggest difference is this rail here. This is the one that is going to come with the founded box SA58, and it's going to change because you cannot put the CASV on it, or you can't use the CASV because you won't be able to buy the rail for it. So this is the other way, and then I would build it, you know, like I said, you would use this handguard here and then just put it on, put your, foregrip on there, and it's going to be a little bit less effective. It's not going to have as good as recoil, but that's just what the options are pretty much. So when we look at this guy here, the price is going to be very strange because a lot of the things that you're going to be running on this gun are purchased from, the market. It comes this way. So the BRS comes with it. 11-inch comes with it. This RVG came with it. We'll just call this 20K. Actually, I'll just leave it on there. This comes with it. And then you're buying your gun here, and this comes with it too. And then you have to buy the Thunder Beast. Now we're looking at 150K. That's a pretty cheap gun, actually, for what you're getting. And it runs right in line with all the other guns on this list. Now, yes, this is a little bit of a confusing build, but if you guys take the time, you can actually have a gun that hits pretty hard for a relatively cheap price. Second to last on this list here is actually probably going to be my most used gun out of this list. I feel like it's one of the best guns to use when you're just going into a raid, going in, not trying to ball out or anything. And it's a very simple build, and that's actually going to be the Blackout, the .300 MCX. The round you're going to be using is BCP FMJ. This is available from Skier, loyalty level 2. I'm pretty sure it could be 1, but I think it's 2. This round only costs 91 rubles. It's extremely cheap, and it has 60 damage, which is good, but it has 30 pen right on the nose. So this gun is actually gonna, even though it breaks the 30 pen threshold, it's gonna struggle against class 4 armor, and that's kind of the balancing factor for this gun because it does have 800 rounds per minute with a relatively controllable recoil. And if it had better ammo, it would pretty much be better than anything on this list, but that 30 pen is kind of what holds it back. It is cheap to run and it is still effective, but these other rounds are going to be better. So this MCX, we just saw, it has 53 ergo and 60 vertical recoil. Very middle ground. It's a decent gun. I like to run this just to run into a raid and just chuck shells because the 800 RPM it's effective. So looking at the pistol grip, we're going to have the Stark. You can also run the F1 ST1. They're going to do the same thing. And then there's a couple more in here that you can run as well. I don't remember right now, but pretty much whatever Stark or FS1 or F1 ST1 is available to you at the time, whatever one's cheapest, run it. They're going to do pretty much the same thing. Now we have the 229 millimeter barrel. On the back end here, I have the MCX Light. And then I put the bus sights on here just for the 2 extra ergo. Once these are available from Mechanic, they're very cheap. It's going to be 8,000 for the 2 ergo. They're pretty much worth it for me. Up front, you have the T-Lock, and then you have the SCRD 762QD, which is the suppressor with a TPB762 as well. That's what's going to drop this recoil down to what it is. And you're also going to be running the suppress, so it's just a good middle of the ground gun. CAS V 6-inch here, and then the AFG once again. Same story with the coloration on that one. And then I do have a ×400 on this. All the way down to the bottom here is going to be the most lethal gun on this list, and that's actually this 366 TKM, the VPO. Now, no one likes this gun. It sucks. It used to suck a lot in the past when APM was not a thing, but now it is a lethal gun, and it has the best ammo out of anything on this list. Now it's going to be the 366 APM. This round has 90 damage and 42 pen. This is the only round on here that breaks the 40 pen threshold. You're going to ruin people with this. Anyone you see, you're going to at least 2-tap them. Now, the APM, it could be a little bit misleading because people see the 90 thorax damage and you think one tap every single time. It doesn't work like that. The APM actually has damage drop off over distance. So anything over 40 meters is not going to one tap a chest because you're going to drop your damage down to 89 or 88, right around there. Anything under 40 meters, I believe, is a one tap to the chest if they're not wearing armor. Now, if they are wearing armor and your bullet does not pen completely, it will not one tap them in the chest again. So it's pretty much, sometimes you'll one tap people in the chest. Most of the time you will not, but it's still, this round is still extremely potent. And which leads to be why this round is so expensive. It's usually between 500 to 1,000 on the flea market. 700 here, 900. You're probably going to be paying around 750 rubles per round for this thing. Now, the 366 actually helps you a little bit here because you're going to be single tapping. It's not a full auto gun. If this gun was full auto, it would be crazy. But I think that the single tap actually helps you. If you look here, we got 58 ergonomics and 136 vertical recoil. Yeah, this gun's going to kick, but you're running a round that is going to be devastating people. If you thought the AKM kicked a lot for a little bit better of a round, the APM is pretty much one of the best rounds in the game, and it's available to people. This gun's going to kick like crazy. So when we come into the edit preset here, it's going to be very similar to the AK-101 and the AKM build. You're going to have the USAK on the back here, the TDBG, RP1, the Bastion, the Mo AKM, and then whatever AFG is available to you at the time. And then I do run this one suppressed with a 366 TKM. There's a couple other options. I'm not even going to look at them because pretty much whatever you do to this gun, it's not going to be great. It's not what it's about. It's not being the lowest recoil. It's not being about anything like that. It's about being effective with your rounds. And if you can hit someone with this, they're going to know. They're going to know that they got hit by you. And it can be a devastating round. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to compare all these guns in the hideout and see how they perform. Just putting them all in a row next to each other, one after another, just to see the recoil and pretty much how these guns look and sound. So I'll see you guys in the hideout. So now that you guys got to see how every single one of these guns performs and sounds and the vertical recoil on every single one of them, that hopefully that'll give you guys a little bit of a better understanding in which one of these guns that you want to choose. Now, for me, what is my personal preference here? Well, I have a couple of things. The MCX Blackout is the gun that I probably run the most. It does have the least effective round, but it's the most seamless gun to get into, and I would have to say that the RPK is right up there with it. They're both pretty cheap. They're pretty cheap to run, and they give you some performance. They're easy to get into, high ergo, lower recoil. They're easy to control. They're full auto, and they're pretty much the easiest ones to just throw on your PMC and get into a raid. Next up, probably I think the most lethal gun on here is the AK-101, but that is only when you can run 5.6 A1 or better. That's the only time when I'd run this gun, and that's the only time I run the gun is when I have my hideout, crafting the items every 12 hours. And yeah, that's when I'd run the AK-101. The AKM is effective. I just don't like the gun that much. Never really liked the AKM. It's good. It's a very good gun, and if you guys like it, go ahead and run it. The SA-58 is kind of a little bit of the black sheep here. I know a lot of people are going to be scared to run this gun, but I kind of wanted to make this build to maybe see some people running the SA-58 again. I think it's fun to see diversity in, people running guns and things like that. And sometimes it's exciting to get shot by an SA-58 instead of, getting BP'd and 995'd all day. And then down at the bottom here, my VPO. This gun is just lethal. It's not that fun for me to run, to be honest. It's not an exciting gun, but my gosh, it is effective. It's probably the most effective gun on this list. And if you don't mind running a VPO, you're going to destroy people with it. Now, what would my suggestion be with this? Well, it's going to be run all of them. That's the main reason that I did this, and that is because of ammo. Now, I'm sure a lot of people, just like me, have a ton of ammo like 995, M61, M62, 5.6A1, M80s, 7N40. Up here with the more Russian-based guns, I have SNB, BS, BP, BT, PP, BP, AP as well. And then I have, Igolnik and all of these things that are, have added up over time. Now, the reason they add up over time is because I can't sell them. I'm not going to sell them to traders because I'm not going to get any money for them, and you can't sell them on the flea market. So what I would suggest to do is to get yourself one of every single one of these builds because they all fire different types of ammo. And I would run up with one of these guns, whatever rounds that you have available that are super effective, like say I have a bunch of Igolnik, I'm going to put like 30 rounds of Igolnik into this RPK build because it's going to be effective. And once you see PMCs, it's going to be more effective to use against them. Otherwise, it's just going to be sitting here until you're level 50, and then once you hit level 50 and you start using it, it doesn't even matter. You might as well as not even have kept on to it. So you might as well as use the ammo that's available to you. And then once you run out of good, 5.45 ammo, go run an AK-101. Use all your 995, your 5.6A1, your 5.5A1. Once that runs out, run some BP and an AKM. Run some M80s and an SA. Run some M61 and M62s. Maybe you found some... Oh, what is it? I think this has an AP round. Oh, it's M61 or 62. It's a tracer for this. Maybe you got that running around or laying around. And then the VPO is always there for you with the AP. It's always going to be available to everyone. So that's what I would do. And then as you make it out of more rage, you'll run into more ammo. Just throw it in, throw it in your ammo container. And then when you're ready to run the guns, go right ahead. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. And hopefully some of these guns and these builds will actually help some people get out there, run some better ammo, and start killing some chads for us casual boys. And let me know down in the comments what you guys think, if you want me to do any other gun build videos and pretty much anything along those lines. If you guys have any comments, just let me know. I love to read your guys' stuff. And I know it's been a while, but I'm back, and there's more to come. So I hope you guys all enjoyed. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Peace.